It's quite an auspicious moment for me to welcome onto the platform for 2024 our regular guest representing, well, herself, but also the views, I guess, of the Labour Party too. And that's Taieri MP Ingrid Leary. This is a big story. It's a hell of a way to start the year, Ingrid.
Yeah, there's never a dull moment in politics, and I guess this is one of those sad and poignant reminders that it's difficult to know when you wake up in the morning in the political world what's going to happen. It's been quite a shocking and surprising turn of events over the last few weeks. I'm not surprised by the swift resignation. My heart goes out to Golriz. I think she's done the right thing. This is something for the Green Party to deal with. They're obviously wanting to minimise the damage, and so I'm not surprised by the resignation, but very sad to see somebody who has really carved her own niche in Parliament go in this way.
It's taken a long time, though. There's quite a bit of political damage that will go with this. I was just commenting this morning that I thought that if it was a major party leader like Chris Hipkins or Christopher Luxon, actions would have happened much quicker than this.
Possibly. It's hard for us to know what was happening behind the scenes in terms of the conversations. Certainly, I'm sure Green leaders would have been wanting to ascertain what the facts were before they commented. I think a comment would have been helpful, certainly, from an MP to say that they're going to defend or that they are going to come back and make a statement at a particular point or whatever. To have absolute silence is deafening, and people do fill the silence with their suppositions. And so, I've been watching this in a very sad way, but also, as every politician does, I guess we watch what happens as things play out in the media, learn from it. And I do think Janet Wilson, the commentator, was right to say front-footing these kind of stories is the only way to get on top of them.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, there's no question about that. And, the Green Party have learned that, and they've still got a lot of questions to answer, I have to say, Marama Davis and James Shaw, about what they knew when. And were they economical with the truth themselves? So I'm sure those questions will still be asked. Listen, I don't know Golriz Ghahraman. I knew her as a bit of a clothes horse, to be honest with you. And she made a big deal of that in many of the media pieces that I've seen. What was your impression of her? Because you served at least one term in Parliament and you were on the same side.
Well, we are in different political parties, and yes, we both sit on the left. I was actually on the Foreign Affairs Committee with Golriz, and I think there were only 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 or 7 members, one of the smaller committees. And Golriz certainly carved her own path, had a voice, was, I would say, to the left of the Green Party in terms of really wanting that independent foreign policy. Also the work that she did around electoral reform, she wasn't afraid to use her voice. More recently, she has identified with the cause of Iranian women, which is an obvious one for her, and with the Gaza-Palestine situation. And, those are areas where she felt very comfortable and was able to use her voice in an authentic way because she had credibility and legitimacy in those areas. So she did have a strong brand. I don't know if she was seen as such a team player within the Greens. I think she forged her own path very much, and that is what you'll find with individual MPs. The ones who tend to forge their own path tend to have a strong brand versus the team players who work with the party lines and so on. So Golriz was one of the ones who forged an independent path and did very well doing that.
So I think what you're saying to me, and I don't mean to twit you on this one, is that she won't necessarily be missed by the Green Party.
Look, I couldn't comment on that because they do put on a very united front, and I'm sure she's got strong allies in that party. But she definitely had a strong independent brand.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Fair enough. We had David Farr on this morning actually talking about this because he'd put together a bit of a timeline on it. But I also asked him about the coming year, Ingrid. And one of the points that he made, and I thought it was a relatively fair point, so I put it to you as well, is where you guys, i.e. the Labour Party, goes in 2024. And I'll explain a little bit more. He was saying that National ended up getting passed on the right by ACT and New Zealand First, and sort of conceding that sort of right slot and heading more into the middle, and that's one of the reasons they won the election and why Christopher Luxon's the Prime Minister. And he's saying that was the big question for you this year, the Labour Party in toto, is do you concede the far left to the Maori Party and the Greens and move your party more to the centre because that's where you're going to win the next election? Is that a thought that you've had expressed around your caucus in the last wee while?
I think that we need to go back to what are our core values. I've always said that. And so whether that's to the left or the right, different people will have different views. I think Labour has always traditionally been a party for the workers, and we need to be focusing on workers' rights and that core base. You know very well, and your listeners do, where I sit on that spectrum. I do sit a bit to the left of the party. I do want to see reform in areas that would be seen as quite to the left of the party. So my views are, I'm not sure that the fight can be won in the middle. Those are my personal views. Other commentators may see it differently and say, okay, that is where the fight needs to happen. We do have parties to the left and the right of us, and so we need to look back to our values and be aligned on what those values are in order to reclaim our space. And I know that process is already happening and will continue to happen going forward.
I have enormous respect for you, Ingrid, and I understand where your politics are and how strongly you hold those views. But at the end of the day, whatever those views might be, you can't actually implement even half of them unless you are in government. Doesn't that mean that Labour's quest to find that middle ground is really its real test for the next 2 or 3 years?
That's one opinion. The other opinion could be, and I'm not saying this is mine, but the counter-argument is that Labour did try very hard to find the middle ground at the last election, and, we didn't get a good result. So this is why I think it's not about politics, it's about values and being aligned and clear on what we mean when we say where are our core Labour values. The first place I would look is around workers' rights. That's how our movement started, and that's where I feel we need to go back to have those big fundamental conversations, which I do agree are things that we need to be doing and we are doing as a movement. We're very aligned. The good thing is the caucus is very aligned, and often that doesn't happen after the kind of defeat that we have encountered. So that puts us in good stead, and we just need to build on that.
Okay. Well, listen, every opposition in your position is going to have to work out what's the path back to power, and that's understandable. I guess for the moment, though, your agenda is very much set by being the opposition, the primary party of opposition. This government has a pretty clear agenda. Certainly the coalition document set out a fairly clear pathway in 2024. What do you personally see as the major battlegrounds for this year?
Well, I don't think they do have a clear agenda, actually. I think they've got an agreement that looks like it has a lot of compromise in it and some fairly superficial populist type arguments and debates to be had over things like toilets, rather than fundamental questions about inequality, what is the race relations and so on. Those are the conversations that need to be had rather than the more superficial ones. There's a lot of dismantling going on, but I don't see what the vision is from this three-headed coalition government, and that may well be the result of the compromise that needed to be had in order to bring the parties into the cabinet room together. But it doesn't look like a clear vision to me, and I think New Zealanders will be wanting to know, okay, if you take away the Māori Health Authority, how are you going to get equity of health outcomes? If you take away the Picton Ferry, what's the alternative, or the reforms that were going to be done? If you are going to change the approach to race relations. What are you going to do that is going to bring New Zealanders together rather than dividing our nation? I don't see any clear vision of that in that coalition document, and these are the questions now. The government's shown that it's been in action, but what is it going to do in a visionary way to replace the things that it's taking away?
Yeah, but